Let's dive into it today. We're going to look at what's going on in DC as we gear up for a very heated season on blockchain regulation. We'll break it down for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into the show. I do want to thank our sponsor today. That is Coinbase, a place where you guys can get going on your crypto journey. Just jump over to Coinbase.com. Future of money is here. Whether you're a business or an individual, you can participate right there on Coinbase.com. A lot of opportunities there as well. If you don't have the companion app, which is the Base app, download that as well. You'll learn a little bit about self-custody. You'll learn a little bit more about what Coinbase is doing as a chain on Base. And of course, use our link. It does help us out. You can get up to $200 in crypto just by making your first trade. So check that out. Listen, we wanted to bring Ron Hammond back in, who has been a very successful lobbyist for the crypto industry and continues his efforts over at Wintermute. So Ron, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well, Paul. I'm doing pretty good. It's a little hectic and it's just starting. So
no
really
kidding. Hey, listen, I was looking at your tweet right here. Congress, this week in Congress crypto, this is the last quiet week. This is it. No more quietness. We're going to see a lot more happening. What do you think is the first thing we'll start to see Congress address right now as they return?
Well, they got plenty on their plate right now. I mean, obviously, since Congress left to go back to their districts at the beginning of August, again, that's typical for every single Congress every single year. They go back and campaign in their districts or go talk to their voters. We saw the DC National Guard come in into that situation. There's a lot of talks about a possible shutdown now at the end of September. So that's going to be taking up a lot of time this upcoming month. And then at least in the crypto space, we're really looking forward to seeing what the next draft is for the market structure bill. Because for those who don't maybe recall, the Senate is now going to be doing their own version of market structure. They're not going to be taking, at least right now, the Clarity Act, which passed out of the House just a few months ago on a very significant bipartisan basis, over 2/3 of Congress, at least the House. It seemed that the Senate has been going on their own product, and they said they should have a draft sometime mid to late September. It could get pushed with the shutdown. But right now, all eyes, at least in the lobbying world and policy world of crypto, are very focused on what's happening with the market structure draft and what the text says, because it's very important and will have legs. We'll have to see.
Why did the Senate decide to go that direction as opposed to just taking the lead from the House?
You know, we've seen this happen before. Actually, we saw this with this Genius Act, the Stablecoin bill, where the House had their own version, the Stable Act. The Senate had the Genius Act. And at the end of the day, the Genius Act won out, even though the House was moving forward a tad faster in the early part of the year. Some of that is more, there's a lot of politics involved, obviously, and there's a lot of pride and ownership here. There's some folks in the Senate on both sides of the aisle who are in the drafting stages saying, hey, I actually think we can do better on this definition, for example, like ancillary assets, or we can do better on decentralization tests, for example. So there's a plethora of different views. The Senate has been a little farther behind, I would say, on market structure topics usually. The House has been working on this for nearly 8 years now and having hearings on this, whereas the Senate's about 5 or 6 years. But the first, really big push for hearings was starting this year when the Republicans took the Senate back over. So we will see what happens on this front here. But at least right now, we've seen a lot of this happen, not just in crypto, where the House passes just a bill and then the Senate says, that's cute, but guess what? We're going to be doing our own version. Because in their mind, and this is true, they have a 60-vote threshold, whereas the House is simple majority. So we will see what happens, who wins out here. But at least right now, the Senate seems to be all for going on their own path and then telling the House, vote on our version if and when it passes.
What would be the timeline on that, do you feel? A healthy timeline, would it be towards the end of the session or could it be happening in the front end of the session?
I'd say, the shutdown does bring a lot of, dynamics into play here, but I would say probably October, late October, early November, we could probably see the full Senate voting on this. Again, remember, we have to go through a committee process, so we still have to go through the committee. Then the committees have to vote on it. We have to go through the Agriculture Committee, and they have to vote on it. Then it goes to the full Senate. So I'd say out of the Senate, hopefully, late October, mid-October to November, and then it would go to the House. And the hope is to have the House push forward and move it forward by hopefully before Christmas. Usually there's a lot of bills that get done right before Christmas timeframe. So we'll see if it gets thrown into that big package, or maybe time will tell that it gets more delayed and it gets more into 2026, which is a place we don't really want to be. So a lot of things up in the air right now, but we're still pretty optimistic. Late fall, probably things are going to be moving a lot faster.
The poly market on Clarity Act signed into law this year, hovering at around 40%. Would you give it that much right now, or would you go higher?
I still go a little higher. It seems that we have pretty good bipartisan buy-in right now. We have Lisa Blunt Rochester on the Democrat side, Kristen Gillibrand as well. We even seen Amy Klobuchar from the Senate Ag Committee saying that she wants to work with the Republicans on crafting their version of market structure.
Okay.
So the upside is that we do have the key players and key senior players in the Democrat Party open to this. So now, mind you, we have Elizabeth Warren, who's the key Democratic player against this, but we've seen her lose out several times already on crypto votes and other votes this year. So time will tell. Exactly, again, the product is really important what comes out, but at least right now, on the political side, the right people are talking.
Yeah. Some other news this week, Ondo launching tokenized stocks and ETFs. So this is going. You've got the CFTC and the SEC also coming out with their own interpretation of how this might play into the markets, which is kind of going ahead of what Congress has been able to do because there hasn't been framework on this yet. Is this a process that you see continuing, or do you think Congress is going to try to get in the middle of this?
At least right now, this seems to be more of a regulatory fight, but this is going to be a theme for quite some time. So for those who aren't really catching up, a lot of these comments on tokenized securities or tokenized equities, they're more focused on the SEC. The SEC put out a request for information back in February saying, hey, we have a plethora of topics, including tokenized equities. Please give us your thoughts. So actually today, Wintermute, we responded and have plenty of thoughts when it comes to the tokenized equity side. And saying that, hey, we think the market's ripe. This is the time to do it. We just need clear rules, especially for being based in the UK. We do need very, very clear rules to operate in the United States as we launch our entity. But overall, we've seen some folks on the negative side here. We've seen Citadel, for example, go really heavily saying we do not think the market's ready for tokenized equities. We've seen the Trade Association, SIFMA, actually taking their arguments as well. We also saw there's an exchange. A trade association as well that said EU as well as the US should stop tokenized equities for now and more study the issue. So we're seeing TradFi now playing up these regulatory barriers or hurdles, you could say, whereas crypto and a lot of the other fintech folks are saying, hey, no, we're ready to go. So this is going to be a battle happening for quite some time, but we're seeing TradFi very uncharacteristically step out in the line of fire and saying, hey, no, we do not want this, at least right now, we're not ready for it. And this is going to be a theme going forward for the next several years as these regulatory battles play out.
Why do you think that that is the case? I mean, obviously, it's the known elements of why they may not necessarily want this to occur, because this would really kind of level the playing field. But is there something else that you see kind of brewing underneath this that would cause more people to come out against it?
Not necessarily. For years, most of the TradFi players, at least in DC, really didn't give two cares about crypto policy. They were focused on many other issues that are way more important for them. And obviously, the theme for a while was that crypto was going to come for TradFi eventually. We're kind of at that moment now, and we're seeing at least TradFi really change their tactics now and being very aggressive. And again, I point to the Citadel letter as kind of the first stopping gun here, as saying that they're being pretty aggressive on this front. And we've seen Commissioner Purse of the SEC say, hey, we're going to have some stuff coming out, quote, soon when it comes to tokenized equities. We don't really know what that means. It could be rulemaking, it could be guidance, but it seems like something is coming in the near future. And that's very nice to hear on the transparency side of things. And that's probably why Citadel was fairly aggressive in their letter. But again, us at Wintermute and plenty of others in the crypto industry, including Coinbase, are saying, hey, no, we think the market's ready. We're ready to show the benefits of this technology and also the benefits it brings to consumers here. We don't think this is more of a market risk by any means. And so, we'll see what happens with the SEC and their decision making here. But overall, that battle between TradFi and crypto, it's come to DC and it's live.
Well, it's interesting too, because you look at Ken Griffey with Citadel, and then you kind of look over at what's happening with Galaxy Digital, who is embracing tokenized securities. I think we may see a division of the guard, coming out of traditional finance. Maybe this next generation of traditional finance that might fall more on Mike Novogratz and their theory of where the markets should be going. So it's going to be interesting to watch. When you look at the current status of the market structure, who are the banks that would say we're not for this? Who are the companies that would say we're not for this? What are you watching out there, from a lobbying standpoint?
Yeah, so at least when it comes to the Clarity Act or the market structure bill that's going through the Senate, we're starting to see some red lines thrown in by various industries. I'm glad you mentioned kind of the naysayers here, which are the banks. The banks said that if we're going to be moving forward with the market structure bill in the Senate, our request is that you close loopholes when it comes to the interest-bearing stablecoins. Again,
Yeah.
they weren't really loopholes. There were agreements back in the stablecoin bill where the community banks came to Congress and said, we're going to lose all our deposits because everyone's just going to stablecoins. And that's why we saw the prohibition on interest-bearing stablecoins from the issuers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're seeing the banks kind of change their, I guess you could say, tactics here and say, well, actually, we want to go a step further now. Now that Genius has signed the law, we want to close off for affiliates, brokers, and dealers, which is pretty crazy. But also, it's a pretty firm line and draw in the sand. So the banks are basically saying to Congress, hey, you're not going to get our support here for this market structure bill unless these are closed off. And again, these weren't loopholes. These are something they explicitly agreed to. So that's more the negative side here. And we've seen them be very vocal about that right now. I am sure as the market structure bill progresses, we're going to see a lot more folks and individual firms kind of join that camp. And again, there could be a chance that we see crypto firms join the camp saying, hey, we're actually opposed to market structure for XYZ reasons. So it's going to be important to watch, but at least right now, really important to watch the banks. That's their lines of interest-bearing stablecoin prohibition. And then at least for crypto folks, the large majority we're seeing is more DeFi protections. The DeFi Education Fund did a huge letter with the industry. And that's kind of seems like to be the industry's red line. So again, and there's multiple firms that have their own positions. And I'm sure we'll see the credit unions and others weigh in. But at least right now, the two big camps of TradFi and crypto have kind of made their stakes in the ground and said, hey, this is where we're at. And now it's up to Congress saying, who's the camp that maybe will be the necessarily winners here, or who are going to be the losers, but also, who are we afraid of and who are we okay maybe making a little more angry in DC. These are just the the values you have to measure in DC, and that's all happening behind the scenes right now.
Yeah, well, I think the issue here is going to be all boiling down to yield accounts that you'll be able to pull in on stablecoins, because it does start to really cause and impede a lot within what has been the known banking system. And then you're also looking at the potential for yields within ETFs, which could start to play into this as well. That'll be a big part of it, because this now gets into more of a dividend strategy that is what traditional investors kind of expect. So yeah, it could get pretty heated. Do you think we'll get a hybrid approach, or do you think it's going to fall one way or the other?
I think it's going to fall one way or the other. Again, a large part of the stablecoin stuff is already done. That's why the Genius Act was separate from market structure. So we'll see if we see some additional touching of stablecoins in the market structure bill. But that's why it was a bold ask for the banks to push that line, because again, we've kind of already done stablecoins here. Mm-hmm. But that's their prerogative, and that's the line they chose.
Interesting. I think they're going to lose this time around.
We'll see.
Beyond that, hey, listen, World Liberty Finance launched over the weekend. Was this a good thing for crypto in general? I know Wintermute is participating in this with OTC desk support. But I'm just kind of curious, when you look at what World Liberty Finance is doing, the Trump family being involved, then you have everything happening in DC right now, which is really centered around market structure. Was it bad timing, or do you think it was good timing? I'm kind of curious. What do you think? Was it a political play?
It depends the outlet you talk to, I guess, because when the day started, I think I saw Washington Post and Politico talk about how the Trump family made $5 billion off this deal. And then about 2 hours later, I saw the crypto media more talk about how it was a flop and World Liberty Financial was tanking. So I guess it depends on who you talk to and kind of like, more their agenda or angle here. When Trump's involved, that just tends what happened, unfortunately, is that there seems to be an element of a bias, one way or the other. But I will say, at least we saw with the market structure bill, we got more Democrats on that bill, despite all the Trump family involvement in crypto. So, don't get me wrong, though, it was definitely a pause for a lot of Democrats, and they had to put some additional language on conflict of interest in that version. But overall, we did see more Democrats join. So, so it remains to be seen. The Senate is a little older, a little more slower to move here, so that could be a big hurdle for some senators. But overall, when Trump's involved in something, half of people hate it, half of people love it. And that's just the reality. You got to work in politics. But upside of crypto, and upside, I guess, with Wintermute too, is that, hey, we're agnostic here. This is, what's good for the markets is good for the rest of the ecosystem here. So overall, we'll see what happens on this front. But timing wise, I will admit, probably doesn't help the headlines here. But the headlines in DC are very different than the headlines you're probably seeing in more traditional markets. Yeah,
for sure. Speaking of Democrats, Gavin Newsom, they're talking about now, I don't know if you saw this, the recent, I think it was on the Pivot podcast with Kara Swisher. He actually said, hey, I think we're going to launch a meme token. So he's taking some pages out of Trump's handbook, And of course, right now it's a pretty low percentage, but I'm just kind of curious, what would be the backlash or the support in DC if what most likely will be a presidential candidate coming in on the Democratic side going into the crypto space? Would people look at this on a favorable position or not?
I'd say probably not. But meme coins to many people are jokes. So I mean, this is just the continuation of a joke. It's just now morphed into more politics here. Ironically, actually, one of the members who was trying to ban presidential candidates and presidents from having a meme coin was actually a Democrat from California who is pro crypto. Sam Liccardo, he's great.
Right.
But there are some folks in California in his own delegation who have said pause here. So if it happens, so be it. This is unfortunately kind of the world of meme coins and politics is not really a favorable one, no matter what direction it goes. But this is politics now. We are crypto is fully mainstream here.
Politics is crypto. Crypto is politics. It feels like
everything's computer. Yep.
Hey, my last question to you is: Trump has been teasing a potential crypto tax exemption. Is that being thrown around in DC right now at all, or is that a dead idea?
No, there's definitely some movement on crypto tax as a whole. I mean, de minimis is definitely right up there. And there's plenty of other ones like mark-to-market, like-kind exchange, and several other big tax priorities in the crypto space that unfortunately we just weren't able to get in the last big tax bill. But it was pretty understandable considering how small it was. But there is a push in Congress and from Trump himself to get another tax bill done before 2026 election. Wow. The odds are pretty low right now, but we've seen movement. Actually, House Ways and Means Committee, the committee that actually does tax policy, has had a hearing actually on plenty of these topics. Actually, it was 2 months ago. So we're seeing movement in Congress, at least here. We saw push Senator Lummis in the last tax bill. She was unsuccessful there, again, but expected. But this go around, seeing a crypto tax, if it does have legs for that tax bill, crypto tax is likely going to have a couple provisions in there. What it will be, we'll see. But I wouldn't consider it dead by any means. But if there was a poly market odd here, I'd probably put a 20, 25%.
Oh, really? A 25% on that? That's a fairly high percentage. I think right now it's hovering at around 20 on something. But with the point that you're getting at, what would that look like in terms of timeline? Because you've got market structure, Clarity Act rolling through this fall. If that occurs, the acceleration into next session after the first of the year, could this end up right in the time slot for prepping for midterms?
I mean, in the ideal situation, yes. Now, of course, it's crypto and it's politics, so there's going to be a plethora of drama that I'm sure will either sour the views of crypto from most of Congress or make folks really excited. I mean, after the Genius Act, we saw a lot of excitement on stablecoins. A lot of people saying, yeah, that was actually a good bill to vote for. Whereas we saw a couple more in the CRA, on, for example, like the broker rule, for example. We had some heartburn from some people saying, okay, that's the one bill crypto wanted. It's like, no, we have plenty of issues on this front. We're just rolling back, unfortunately, the damage that Gary Gensler and several others did in the last administration. So we'll see. But again, I would say that tax bill is more incumbent on just if there's appetite in Congress to move on tax bill in 2026 and the early part of 2026, which is always a mixed message. But if there is political buy-in, and of course, if the president wants it, this Congress tends to give him what he wants. We'll see what happens.
Press hard for sure. Ron Hammond, it's been great having you back on. We'll keep a close ties on you and your efforts up there in DC in terms of how the market is moving and what DC is going to do to respond to it. But thanks for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Anytime, Paul. Thanks.
You bet. All right, you guys, if you're not in the Diamond Circle, it's a great place to get additional content from us. And of course, you can do that for free. All you have to do is just use the link down below. That's going to get you in, and it will get you our Market Edge email and a couple of insights from me, which is really kind of where the market, I believe, is going. So check it out. And of course, follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.